get the ball rolling here?
Sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Tanika Kelly. I'm the vice chair in the Department of Epidemiology. Our department chair, Dr. Jung He, couldn't be here today, so I'm sort of representing him, and I'll be presenting some slides on his behalf. But I think before we get started, maybe all of the faculty should sort of introduce themselves. Maybe all of you students could introduce yourselves. Then we can sort of talk about our department and Epi and this, go through the slides that really sort of reflect what we're doing and why you should come to Tulane, and then we can answer some questions. So I guess I'll start, and then I'll kind of, since we're in this Zoom environment, I'll just move through the faculty on the screen, and then the students as well. You guys can introduce yourself. So as I mentioned, my name's Tanika Kelly. I've been on the faculty in the Department of Epidemiology since 2009. I actually did my MPH and PhD training right here at Tulane. So like many of the faculty here, I have the student experience, and now I sort of have the experience as faculty. My research focuses on cardiovascular disease, and I'm trained in genetics, so I do a lot of genomics research, and I look at other levels of biological variation and how it relates to cardiometabolic health. And I teach a couple of classes. I teach our genetic epidemiology class and an epidemiology methods course called meta-analysis. So next, I'll just kind of go through my screen. Dr. Jeanette Gustat, would you mind introducing yourself?
Not at all. Hi everybody. Welcome to our Tulane Zoom Epi call, or whatever we're calling this. Is this open house? No, just
Open house.
Open house. Okay. All right. Great. So yeah, my name is Jeanette Gustat, and I as well was a student here and now have been faculty for a long time. I am interested in physical activity and obesity, and in the physical and social environments and how these environments, including the built environment, affect our health and our health behavior choices. And so I've been studying bike lanes and park access and access to local stores and farmers markets, as well as looking at developing some tools to assess these things, and looking at chronic disease and how, and with the Bogalusa Heart Study. I've been with the Bogalusa Heart Study for a number of years. It's a long-term study of cardiovascular risk factors. I teach the intro Epi course, so if you do come here, you might be in my section of the course. I also teach an undergrad course on nutrition and chronic disease, because my training is in nutritional epidemiology. I guess I'll stop there. Welcome.
Thank you. Dr. Pierre Bukins.
Thank you, Tanika. Welcome to the Department of Epidemiology here. I'm Pierre Bukins. I'm an OBGYN and epidemiologist. I work mostly on infectious diseases and pregnancy, West Nile, dengue, Zika, mostly Chagas disease, in Latin America and also in Africa. So I'm glad to have a chance to meet you by Zoom today. Thank you.
Thanks. Dr. Susan Hassig.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tulane's open house in the Department of Epidemiology. I'm an infectious disease epidemiologist, and when I began my professional career, HIV was the pandemic that we were all worried about, and of course now it's COVID. So that has been keeping me very, very busy the last 6 months. I am primarily interested in the application of epidemiologic methods and approaches to the real world public health environment, looking at outbreak investigations and utilizing epi methods in that context, and assessing the impacts of perhaps climate change on patterns of infectious disease, for example, especially those that are vector associated. So I welcome you to New Orleans virtually.
Amongst our faculty and staff, last but certainly not least, probably one of the most important people in the department, Ms. Therese Carter. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm glad to see you here. I hope you will have the courage to show your faces at some point. I'd like to see and learn more about you. I am the academic program manager for the Department of Epidemiology, so I can help with your applications for admission, any questions you have about the curriculum, coursework, practicum, If you'd like to connect with other students currently in the program, which I think is very helpful, I can help with all that. So please feel free to reach out.
So I think that's all of us that are on the department. Maybe each one of you can say, each of the students or prospective students can say a little bit about yourselves. Justin, you're the first one on my screen. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I called in on my phone and I didn't know a meeting was. But my name is Justin Jones. I'm a researcher at TCU in Fort Worth, Texas. So I got my MPH from Yale last year in infectious disease epidemiology. So nice to meet everyone.
You too.
So Justin, are you interested in the PhD program then?
Yes.
Great, perfect.
Cool. All right, Farah.
Hi everyone, I'm Farah. I'm a research assistant currently in maternal and child health at the Harvard School of Public Health, and I graduated with my MPH in epidemiology and biostatistics from Berkeley just last year. And yeah, very happy to be here and learn more about the program. And I am also interested in the epidemiology PhD.
Great. Arushi, and please correct me if I do not say your name correctly.
You actually said it right. Hi guys, I'm Arushi Tarke. I'm an international student from Mumbai, India, and currently I'm doing my MS in kinesiology and health in Miami University. And I did my bachelor's in microbiome, pre-med, and global health in Miami. At the moment, I'm doing a thesis on the effect of physical activity on skeletal muscle and low-grade inflammation in older adults. But yeah, it's happy to meet you all.
Arushi, are you also interested in the PhD program? Okay.
Yes.
Lois. We can't hear you. We still can't hear you. Maybe we'll come back and maybe you can try and fix your audio problem. In the meantime,
how about now?
Now, yes.
Yeah, now you're
yeah,
good.
okay,
All right,
sorry.
Lois.
It connected to both phone and computer. So my name is Lois Johnson, and I actually studied industrial engineering at Georgia Tech, and I concentrated in quality and statistics. I did a little bit of work with the CDC division of HIV and AIDS, and now I do a lot of volunteer work with UN Women USA Chicago, and I'm interested in the MPH in epidemiology at Tulane.
Great.
Where are you now, Lois?
Chicago.
Oh, okay. We have a few Chicago people represented here today. Okay.
All right, Sam.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Sam. I am interested in the MPH in epidemiology. I'm currently a research assistant at the NIH. My lab does a lot of research on built environment and physical activity, cardiovascular risk, that kind of thing. And yeah, we do a lot of mixed kind of epi and community-based research, which is really cool. I enjoy it a lot. And I graduated from Mount Holyoke a couple years ago with a degree in environmental science and Spanish.
Great.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Priyanka. Priyanka, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so my camera isn't working currently, so excuse me for that. I'm from Mumbai as well, India, and I'm interested in MPH, epidemiology. I'm a dentist, and I want to expand my horizon in the field of epidemiology. So yeah.
Great,
That's great. Priyanka, we have quite a few dentists from India in our program, so you would
Oh,
have
yes. Oh,
a
yes.
familiar group here.
Dakaria?
Hey everybody, my name is McGill and I am a senior.
How do you say your name? I missed it.
Dakiria.
Dakiria, I'm sorry. Okay, Dakiria.
I'm a senior at the University of Southern Mississippi, and there I am studying, I'm a public health major with a minor in psychology, and I'm interested in the MPH program.
Great. Meredith?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Meredith Wang. I'm interested in the PhD program in epidemiology, and my background is in, I had a master in public health from University of Washington, and I'm now a researcher at the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, shortened as IHME. It was a research center. It's a research center under UW Medicine. I'm based in Seattle. I'm mostly interested in the infectious disease epi, so hope to learn more about that here.
Great. Great. Hi, Meredith. Finally, I get to see you in person.
Yay!
In person.
Okay, and Metabel? I probably mispronounced that. Last name is Seyfou, S-E-Y-F-O-U. Can you hear me? Okay, if not, there's one more person who seems to be on a phone. Do you want to introduce yourself? Okay, maybe they stepped away or they aren't available right now or have some audio issues. So please, if you resolve your issue and you're able to join in and introduce yourself, please feel free to stop me as I go along or anything. So I think now we have a little presentation for you guys to talk a little bit about our department. I'll be sort of presenting it on Zhang's behalf, but other faculty on this call, obviously there are areas that you guys are working in that I'm not, so please feel free to chime in and stop me if you have some interesting, if you have some additional information that would be really relevant to provide to the students. So don't be, I know you faculty aren't shy, so we'll just go ahead and I'll probably call you in on some things too that I know you're more familiar with than compared to me. All right, so let me share my screen. All right. Ooh, got this strange stuff. All right. I have a lot of screens going on, so it takes me a moment. Okay. And students, if you have questions as we go along, please also chime in and ask. I don't mind being interrupted. I think that's perfectly reasonable and great. Okay, so let me see if I can get I want to be able to see all the students too. So I'm opening up my monitor, my slides. Okay. All right, everybody. So you're probably here today to find out maybe a little bit more about epidemiology, why study epidemiology. I know when I was entering, when I was thinking about grad school and master's program, I didn't know a whole lot about epi. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Then we'll talk about what Tulane has to offer you and why we think our program is so special. And we'll talk a little bit about who we are and what we do as I go along here. So first, let's just talk about why epidemiology. What is epidemiology? So for those of you who are maybe thinking about PhD programs, you might have a little more information about epi. For those of you who are starting out, you may or may not know that epi is the study of the distribution and causes of disease in populations. I think before COVID, I used to always have to explain what epidemiology was. Nobody knew. But since COVID, I feel like people really have a much better idea of epidemiology and what epidemiologists do. So you've probably heard a little bit about us on the news, even if you haven't spent a lot of time doing research yet on epidemiology programs. So we study the burden of disease in population, the causes or etiology of diseases in populations, and then we also aim to use this knowledge for disease prevention and control. So a lot of epidemiologists are also doing randomized controlled trials, implementation research to try and identify ways to prevent and control disease in the population. Epidemiology is the basic science of public health. If you're studying epidemiology, you'll learn basic epidemiologic research methods. So we are the basic science of public health. So to talk a little bit more about what epidemiologists do, I've already talked a little bit about COVID. I've touched on it. I know that all of you have probably heard a lot about this condition. I'd like to turn this slide over to Susan Hassig. She's one of our infectious disease people, and she's going to tell you a little bit about COVID in the US.
Well, this is actually a quite dated slide, but I left it here on purpose because I want us all to remember that just a few months ago, this was not a problem that was of tremendous and direct import to most of us. And our experience with coronavirus has really pulled epidemiologists collectively as a discipline into the limelight in terms of providing information and answers as we try to understand the burden and the impact and the implications of this particular infectious disease on individuals and on populations collectively. So just to remind you of where we were not that long ago, which seems, from my perspective, several years ago, you know, we had very, very few locations, and you'll note that New Orleans is down there and a little, it doesn't even really have a dot on this slide. But we did have a substantial problem in March and April. Here in New Orleans, our mayor was very aggressive and utilized public health measures and listened to her epidemiologists and her clinical scientist support system, as did our governor, and really made a substantial effort to contain and control the pathogen using the methods that we learned very quickly were viable and useful mechanisms of control. Since that time, Tulane and obviously scientists all around the world have been focused on identifying and investigating therapeutics. We've had a number of clinical trials here looking at a whole range of products and potential candidates for therapy. We have vaccine trial sections going on here in New Orleans and Louisiana as well, contributing to that effort for the ultimate hopeful holy grail prevention of COVID. And so part of our challenge has been collectively to help everyone understand what all this abundance of information means as we look at how the disease is transmitted and we refine our knowledge of that, and then what the clinical implications are short term. And then most definitely a concern is rising now about the long-term implications in terms of residual damage to a variety of organ systems that may occur. And that answer is still unclear and is obviously the focus of a lot of research and exploration in the epidemiologic and clinical community. So I think that this has been a readily accessible example of just how basic epidemiologic tools and methods and approaches have really worked in real time to help us collectively as populations around the world to understand this challenge that we are all facing together. And is a great example of epidemiology in action. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Susan. I should also mention that Dr. Hassig has been a great spokesperson for this university during the COVID pandemic, and she's really actually been on a national platform. I've heard her on NPR. I saw you on Fox News discussing prevention of how to prevent COVID, health disparities in COVID. So she's been really getting a lot
even the New York Times
great service. Yes. So she's been kind of famous.
I'm just wondering, do any of our prospective students here have any questions about COVID right now, or any comments about what's going on in your area or is there anything that you would want to know? You've got the expert right here.
Or maybe you're all COVIDed out.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So we have, in addition to Dr. Susan Hassig, we have a good group of infectious disease epidemiologists working at Tulane. So there's a lot of people working on COVID. And then of course, it's actually touching on chronic disease too. People are interested in looking at how COVID is the potential long-term effects of COVID on pulmonary and cardiovascular and perhaps other conditions as well.
Renal too.
Renal, right, exactly. So there's a lot of research going on in COVID in pretty much every area probably of epidemiology. Okay.
I actually do have a question. Sorry. I've heard about specifically, I mean, health disparities all over the United States when it comes to COVID, but I've also heard about it directly in New Orleans. And I'm wondering if you're doing any research on health disparity in New Orleans and COVID.
There are several faculty in various departments that have some ongoing work in that area. One of the challenges that we're dealing with in Louisiana in particular, we have a very heterogeneously distributed population. New Orleans is about 60% African American, and we were where the virus hit first in the state. And so many African Americans in the city worked in essential positions where they were unable to shelter in place when everybody else was locked down. And they became more heavily infected. They were exposed more substantially and infected. And many of them we've seen excess mortality in African Americans here. But I feel, and I believe that our dean has been working extensively in health disparities for much of his career and really has taken the lead in this particular area. But it's as much the risk of exposure that distributes itself in some respects with regard to race and ethnicity that we have seen here play out. The disparity is not so great once you get outside of New Orleans. But still there's a disproportionate number of African Americans who have certainly experienced mortality events as a result of COVID, yes.
Any other questions? No? Okay, well then I'll move on. I think for most people, when they think about epidemiology and epidemiologists, we are often thinking about infectious disease and outbreaks and the famous movies that have, sort of displayed epidemiologists in these situations. But as you probably know, we also study chronic conditions. One of the oldest cohorts in the US is called the Framingham Heart Study. They've been going for over 5 decades now. They started in 1948 to really try to identify risk factors for cardiovascular disease. It was some of the first work that really associated cigarette smoking, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, and physical inactivity with cardiovascular disease, coronary heart disease, stroke, and those kinds of chronic conditions. So you can see here the logo for the Framingham Heart Study. It's conducted in Massachusetts. So for those of you from the Boston area, you may have already heard of this study, or for those of you who have some experience in cardiovascular disease research, I'm also sure you've heard about that. We'll be talking a little bit more later on about some of the research we're doing. We have a long-term study called the Bogalusa Heart Study that's at Tulane that's been going on now for over 4 decades. Jeanette Gustat's been working on this study for quite some time. And so we'll talk a little bit about that later on too, when we're introducing some of the work that we're doing. So again, why epidemiology? I think there are great career opportunities in epidemiology. US News in 2019 ranked epidemiology as number 4 in terms of best science jobs. why our school, Tulane School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine, has a 95% job placement rate. And when we talk about job placement, we're really talking about placement in the public health sector, whether that's in academics or work at the local, state, federal level organizations. I think Jeanette wants to say something. Yeah.
Well, I just was thinking, do you think COVID is going to make the fourth best job in science? Is that going to change rank? Is it going to go up or down because of COVID? Because we're being called on all the time now, right? So does that improve our standing or make it worse? I don't know.
I think it depends who you talk to.
Yeah.
When we tell them things they don't like to hear, then we're not so popular.
True. So there are great opportunities, and we'll talk some more about careers in epidemiology as we progress. So here you can see some of the 15 top jobs in epidemiology. A lot of our students will go on in academic research. Some of our master's students will end up in PhD programs, or they may take positions at academic institutions, working as analysts, research coordinators, that type of thing. For those of you interested in PhD programs, a lot of, I would say a lot of our graduating PhD students move on into academic careers, taking good postdoc positions and moving on into faculty positions throughout their careers. Our MPH is a very general degree. We have a lot of applied epidemiologists who come out of our program who are working at the local, state, or federal level as leaders in public health. There's climate health epidemiologists. This is probably going to become more and more important as our climate changes and evolves and sort of supports perhaps more disease. There's clinical trials research. People can work in the pharmaceutical companies or in the academic area doing clinical trials research. There's disaster epidemiologists, investigators, epidemiology management and administration. Of course, you can go on to become faculty if you stay in academics. There are field epidemiologists working within the communities internationally, hospital and clinical epidemiologists. There are people in charge of infection control and prevention, or molecular epidemiologists, pharmaceutical epidemiologists. People go on to statistician and analyst positions, and there are veterinary epidemiologists as well. So there are a lot of things that you can do with an epidemiology degree, and we'll show some examples sort of more towards at the end of this little presentation with some examples of what many of our students have gone on to do. Here's just another slide that shows careers in epidemiology. There are applied epidemiologists that might work for state health agencies, people who are working in infection control in hospitals or in medical laboratories, PhD level epidemiologists at universities, veterinary epidemiologists, people working in federal agencies. And here's a nice website that you can go to learn more too. In terms of salaries, I think our graduates do pretty well. You can see the average annual income. It looks like the majority of graduates go on to work for state or local governments, and you can see that the average annual incomes are pretty nice across the board. And of course, if you get into scientific research and development services, those salaries can even be higher, especially at the PhD level. So they make, epidemiologists do tend to make good incomes, even if they are working for the government in government positions. In terms of an epidemiologist's salary potential, the median salary is about $80,000 a year, with the lowest at about $40,000 per year to the highest at $127,000 per year. So you can see from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, they mentioned that the median salary is well above the national average due to the level of education required and the technical nature of the education requirements to become an epidemiologist. If you go into our training program in epidemiology, you will learn very useful skills that are worthwhile and are paid well. We'll teach you how to analyze data and interpret literature, and I think these skills are highly desirable as you enter the workforce, particularly in public health in general. So why Tulane? Why us? I think we have a very nice faculty. You can see here, these are, this is the faculty of our department. We have expertise in a variety of areas. I think on the call today, we have infectious disease expertise, reproductive epidemiology expertise, cardiovascular disease expertise, omics expertise. So there's, and that's just us on this call. However, we have cancer epidemiologists in our department. We also have epidemiologists doing environmental health research. We have people who are more molecular in nature, doing molecular epidemiology. So we touch on all areas, and we have a lot of research going on. So I think that's very attractive to students coming in. And we'll talk a little bit more about research opportunities a little bit later. But in terms of the coursework, we have great descriptive courses that really cover a range of contents that I think are very, provide nice opportunities for students to get a broad knowledge of this field and the different content areas that are out there. In terms of our degree program, we have 3 master's programs. We have the Masters of Public Health program. Susan Hassig is the director of the MPH program. Susan, would you like to say anything? I think there are a few students who are interested specifically in the MPH program on this.
Sure. The MPH is, as you probably have learned as you've explored this particular degree option, is considered a professional degree. And here at Tulane, we've made a conscious decision to focus on the methods as the core of our program. So there is a series of epidemiologic methods courses and several biostatistical methods courses that are required. And then we encourage students, you don't have to define a particular area or focus of interest at the master's level. We encourage you to explore, because there are specific techniques and approaches that may be relevant in one particular area that are distinct and different from that in another area. But if you already know what you're most interested in terms of a topic area, we have a range of courses available in a number of different areas that allow you to explore that particular area in more depth without, you don't have to formally declare to, for example, a sub-track or a program within the master's level training. We focus on the methods and ensuring that you really come out with some mastery of that. The practicum is a key component of our MPH program in giving you an opportunity to get out of the academic environment and into the applied world of public health, to have the opportunity to see how the material and the theory that you've been learning in classroom really translates when you're out in the real world. And that's an important part of the training process. And that's something generally people undertake after they've completed their first 2 semesters of their coursework out of in a 2-year academic program. And when and if you decide to join us here at Tulane, we have a lot of information about practicum options and opportunities, and et cetera. In fact, Therese does a great job organizing every fall a practicum event to help students that are, in the process of thinking about that, to get some firsthand experience from some of our former students about what they did. So we focus on the methods here at the master's level, certainly, and then provide a variety of options in particular areas to allow you to tailor your coursework to your particular interests.
Thank you, Susan. That was a great description. And I think the practicum opportunities have just been really great for the students in general. A lot of students have gone on to work at the places that they did their practicum. So it's a great stepping stone into a position that you may want in the future. So it's really a nice experience, and you get to learn a lot more about practically what epidemiologists do. There's also the Masters of Science in Clinical Investigation. Dr. Amanda Anderson is the director of that program. She's not on the call today, but this program is geared, I think, a little bit more towards health professionals. It teaches clinical research, so the program is more intensive. You'll take, or it's it's geared towards more individuals who really are interested specifically in clinical research. So you'll take classes like clinical trials, you'll take a implementation science course, you'll take a meta-analysis course. It's a little bit different. It's not as broad as the MPH, so it's people with specific interest in clinical research. The Masters of Science in Epidemiology program, I've been the director of that program for some time. This is more geared towards students who really want to go into a PhD program after they graduate, and they know that. So it's not as broad, again, it's not as broad as the Masters of Public Health program. You don't have to take all of the core public health courses. So right now, coming into an MPH program, you will get a wide variety of courses from out of departments across the school. The Masters of Science will be mainly limited. You will take a foundations, I think, in foundations and public health course, but aside from that, it will be focused on epidemiology and biostatistics. I think generally for students who aren't quite sure of what they want to do, the MPH program is probably ideal. We have a lot of students who go on to PhD programs after the MPH program, but also we have a lot of students that go into work as an applied epidemiologist as well. So that's if you're interested in the PhD program, but you're not sure, I think the MPH program is definitely the right place. And then we have a doctoral program, our PhD program in epidemiology. So this is a 72 credit hour program. However, if you already have a Master's of Public Health, it's, is it 30, Therese, or 32 hours?
So I just wanted to mention Dr. Harville has now joined our call, and she's the
director. Good. Oh, I see Emily. Emily, why don't you talk about the PhD program in epidemiology?
But I can explain basically, because we do have quite a few interested in the PhD. You're going to want to know how many credits do you have to take for the degree. Typically, a PhD student who did a Master's of Public Health or a Master's will do only 30 credits of advanced coursework for the PhD, a prospectus, and a dissertation for the degree. Usually we're able to transfer in 42 credits from your previous master's coursework, but we'd have to take a look at your transcript to make that determination.
Hey, Emily, do you want to introduce yourself too? We all introduced ourselves a little bit earlier, so please introduce yourselves and save me and talk about this.
Yes, sorry, I ended up having to get out a little late. My name is Emily Harville, and as Dr. Kelly said, I'm the director of the PhD program. I'm a reproductive and perinatal epidemiologist, and I focus on just about anything that's related to pregnancy health, birth outcomes, and so forth, particularly effects of disaster on maternal and child health, as well as preconception and multi-generational effects. So the PhD program, is fairly small, partly because we like to link people up with an advisor right away. So we only bring in people that we're sure we have a strong advisor, a strong way that they can work on a project. So if you're interested in that, program, I'd encourage you to contact me or contact someone you think might be an advisor in the area that you're interested in. And we can see if they are going to be in a position to take new students. So the PhD program, most of our people entering the PhD have either an MPH or an MS, usually in epidemiology, though occasionally in some other discipline, but related. And they usually spend their first year or two taking classes, so more advanced, particularly more advanced methods and more advanced statistics. After that, they take comprehensive exams. They defend their prospectus, which is sort of the outline of what their dissertation is going to be. They finish dissertation, which is normally 3 scientific papers, which you're encouraged to publish. And then they defend that dissertation, which is, those 3 papers plus an introduction and conclusion. So most of our PhD students finish in about 4 years if they're full-time. And we're generally pretty good about moving students through in that time. Let's see, anything else?
Can I say something?
Sure.
I would just like to mention that our PhD students, we do take a very small number. It's highly competitive for admission because we do offer full scholarship and a research assistant salary for your support to get you through the program. So I really encourage you all to try to get your application in by our deadline. This year will be January 15th, 2021. And you should hear fairly quickly after that whether you've been nominated for the Dean's Research Council Scholarship. That would be the first scholarship. And then there's some other scholarship funds from the department. The very important thing, as Dr. Harville mentioned, is to find a mentor and mention who you would like to work with as a mentor in your application. That will help us a lot in determining whether we can provide you the kind of support that you're looking for. All of our faculty bios are on our website. There's a detailed bio there along with their contact information. Feel free to reach out to faculty directly. When you do email them, everybody's very busy, so keep the email brief, a brief email of introduction, but attach your CV or resume to it. That way, if they're interested in you, they've got all your information right there. You don't have to write a book to them. The other thing I wanted to ask Dr. Harville to do, because the question came up earlier before she joined, can you tell the students something about your new course you'll be offering in the spring regarding health disparities?
Sure, yes. So I'm going to be teaching a new course, so we'll see how it develops. Courses always evolve a bit. What we've found is that there are courses in our health behavior department which are at a higher level, a doctoral level, and are more theoretical. But we're hoping this one in the epidemiology department is going to be more, it's going to be more content-based and more practical. So looking at what are the disparities that are out there and what, how have they been created? What are the mechanisms that create them? And then what interventions have been attempted to improve those health disparities? Have they been effective? And so that's going to be the focus of that class.
Oh, I'm being asked by one of the participants to restate the deadline. It is January 15th, 2021. We've extended that application period. So if you're seeing December 1st on the website, that would be great if you could get it in that early, but we understand with COVID and the holidays and GRE test scores and everything that's going on, January 15th is a more generous deadline. So that is our deadline, January 15, 2021. GRE is required for the PhD application. The scores should be less than 5 years or less. And we do, because it is very competitive, we're looking for scores generally in the 75th percentile and above, but we will take a holistic view of your application. So we'll look at your publications, your research experience, your match with the mentor. All of these things are really essential in the doctoral application.
Sorry, just to clarify. So for January 15th, that should be the hard deadline, right? Everything, the recommendation letter, yeah.
Because that's when we will all gather together and we will rank everyone. And if you're not in by that date, you won't get ranked, you'll miss. You'll miss getting consideration by the full group.
And you guys are using the SOFAs, right?
We use SOFAs for all of our applications, yes.
Okay, so we should like maybe submit SOFAs maybe like in December, like a month ahead for them to verify and stuff.
You know, if you're struggling with any part of SOFA's application, just email me. Let's say you're really down to the wire on the GRE application or your GRE test. You will know the scores the day you take the exam. You can email me the scores. I can still include you. So even though your official scores may not come out or be sent to us by January 15th, but try to get, your recommenders lined up, write your career statement, contact a potential mentor. All of these things you can start to be working on now if you're serious about enrolling in fall 2021. Of course, if you're thinking further on down the line, then don't worry about it. But January 15, 2021 is for fall. We only admit doctoral students once per year in the fall.
Great, thank you.
Can I also ask about the English proficiency requirement for international students?
Yes.
So if I did my undergrad in a foreign institution, but I did my master's in a US institution. Would I still need to submit TOEFL?
No, you do not need TOEFL because you have one US degree, but you will need to submit educational credential evaluation of your undergraduate degree so that we get a course in GPA equivalency for the US.
Right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Any other questions about the degree programs?
I think I just had another question about, on average, people who enter the PhD in Epi, how much work experience do they have, or how many years of work experience do they usually have?
It varies. What do you all think? Dr. Harville?
Yeah, I mean, it varies quite a bit. I would say most people have some work experience at some point, either between their bachelor's and their master's or since their master's. We don't have that too many people who went straight through. But I would say maybe a couple years is pretty standard. Does anyone want to contradict me? Yeah, that's would be my best guess.
And we'll look at what kind of work experience you had during your master's program as well. How involved were you in your preferred area of research during the master's program? Do you have any publications? That's always helpful.
Thank you.
Dr. Kelly, did you want to say something?
No, just that I agree.
Okay.
Good points. Okay. So I think with respect to the PhD program, Emily talked about this. We do this one-on-one pairing of students with their mentor. And I think that's one of the really special things about our PhD program and really makes our PhD program extremely competitive. I think at some universities, they just admit quite a few students. Students have to scramble to try to figure out who they're going to work with and how they're going to get their dissertation. Here at Tulane, you do have to you'll be doing your coursework in the first couple of years, but you start doing research with your mentor right away. You'll likely start working on research papers with your mentor immediately as you go into the program, getting your hands dirty with research. So I think that's something that is just really great about our program. And I think that our students, our PhD students, have been very successful. They usually graduate with quite a few publications in addition to, the papers they're working on as part of their dissertation. And for the dissertations here, I think Emily mentioned it, we usually go with a 3 manuscript format because we really feel that to have you prepared post-PhD, one of the most important things is to have publications if you want to go on to a really great postdoc or to a faculty and eventually to a faculty position. So we take our PhD students very seriously. We admit just a small number, but we support them not just financially, but in the development of their research trajectory and thinking about their careers moving forward. So I think it's just, I really am a huge advocate for our PhD program. I think it's a really a great place to be.
We have another question from Justin. He is asking, is there lab rotation option for students that may have more than one advisor of interest? Okay. Typically, students will work with one primary advisor only in the Department of Epidemiology. However, like all research, there's collaboration involved. So when you get to the dissertation stage or your prospectus and you develop your committee, you'll have more than just your advisor on your committee. Does any faculty want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been, many of my students have also worked on projects for other faculty or something like that. We don't have a formal rotation system, in part because your stipend is usually tied to a grant that your advisor has. So you're expected to work for that money on that grant. But students have been able to explore other areas or working on the side with other professors generally.
Yeah, and we are very collaborative. Oh, Dr. Buchanan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to add that, I work a lot with the Department of Tropical Medicine, which is really a lab-based department. So it's not unusual for my student to have some lab activities there, even though I don't have a lab myself. So definitely there is a lot of opportunities at Tulane to work between departments or in different departments.
I agree. I agree. And we are very collaborative in our group. I have, you know, I have students that have been, that I'm working with and sort of co-mentoring with other faculty as well, because they have diverse research interests. So that does happen. And, you know, we work with our students too. We have some students that have gotten their own NIH funding to do their doctoral studies, in which case that gives them a lot of flexibility in who they can work with. And it's something we really encourage, because we think it's great to get that grant writing experience as you're going through the PhD program. And we take that very seriously, and we'll work with our students on those kinds of things too.
And also, I would say, since we have the School of Medicine just a couple of blocks away, there is a whole range of more laboratory oriented and clinically oriented faculty in that realm that some students over the years have actually engaged into their dissertation research as well at the PhD level.
So we've spent some time talking about the PhD program, but I do want to just mention generally for all of our programs, I think what's really unique about Tulane, or maybe not completely unique, but what I really valued about being a student at Tulane was just how well you get to know the faculty. Our classes, aside from the very basic foundational courses that you take, they tend to be very small. I think our faculty are very interactive. They really like to get to know the students. Most people have a fairly open door policy and are happy to just get to know students and work with students. So I think that's another great thing that relates to all of our programs, just our accessibility and willingness to really work with the students and meet with the students, because we know that you're the future of public health and the cadre of the next leaders in the field. So those are our programs. Why don't we talk a little bit about our areas of focus. We have a large chronic disease group. Some of us are doing cardiovascular disease research, chronic kidney disease research, hypertension, obesity and diabetes, cancer, aging and dementia. There's nutritional epidemiology, social and environmental determinants of health. If any of the faculty want to stop me and talk a little bit about their area, please go ahead and do that. I'm happy to stop. So we have a semi-large group in this chronic disease area. There's a few people doing cancer, and then a substantial group of us working on cardiometabolic disease and chronic kidney disease in this area. There's multi-omics or transomics epidemiologists in our department, mostly doing cardiovascular and cancer disease research. So we're looking at genomics, epigenomics, transcriptomics, proteomics, and metabolomics. I think maybe some of you have heard about the microbiome. That's become popular in research these days. You hear about gut bacterial communities and how they influence your health. We're doing some of that research too within the department. You've already heard from Susan Hassig. We have a good group doing infectious disease epidemiology. Her and Dr. Patty Kissinger are doing HIV and STI epidemiology. There's tropical disease epidemiology. I know Dr. Bukins does some work in that area, and he's a reproductive epidemiologist generally. Environmental and occupational epidemiology. Dr. Felicia Rubito is doing work in that area. Maternal and child health and reproductive epidemiology. Dr. Bukins, Dr. Harville, and Dr. Xiong are doing work in that area. Clinical epi, we have clinical trials going on in all areas, comparative effectiveness research. There's translational science and implementation research going on here. We have statistical methodologists. So there's a lot of different work going on within our department, sort of spanning all areas of epi. Okay. So another reason to come, I think, to Tulane is we have a lot of research funding. So what does that mean? Why is that advantageous to students? The reason that's very advantageous to students is that we have a lot of research going on, so that you guys not only are getting the didactic training that you need to progress in your careers, you can get that hands-on research experience. I know that personally, as a student, things really clicked when I was actually analyzing data and doing research in the clinic and seeing how research was coordinated and how trials were coordinated and observational research studies were conducted. So I think that's one of the benefits. We have students at all levels engaging in research. In our master's program, they're often working in our in the research clinics that we have, learning sort of the basics about research. I think I was involved in recruitment, data entry, doing everything from the ground level. I have master's students that have worked as analysts with me, and then in the PhD program, maybe more focused research in the content area of your choosing. Does anybody want to add a little bit more about that? No? Okay. So anyway, we have a lot of, although we're a small faculty, we're a very well-funded faculty. So there's lots of research opportunities for students at the master's level and the PhD level.
Yeah, Tanika, I mean, maybe one thing to mention is that since our PhD program is actually fairly small, that probably opens up more opportunities at the master's level because not all the research slots are taken by PhD students. So.
Exactly. Yeah, Dr. Harville. Right.
I just wanted to point out, according to the schedule, we've got 2 minutes left.
Oh, okay.
Anybody who's free to continue on, I can stay. I don't know about the rest of you, but we can keep going.
Sorry, I'm a novice at presenting these slides. I think Dr. Hubb moves through them more quickly. Okay, in terms of peer-reviewed scientific publications, we are a very productive group, and our students, that includes the student publications that we have. We're working closely with especially our PhD students working on publications, but we really encourage this at all levels of study as well. We have a lot of research going on. These are just some examples of studies going on within the Translational Sciences Institute. Some of the bigger studies, the Bogalusa Heart Study. Dr. Jeanette Gustat, do you want to talk very briefly about the Bogalusa study, since I think you're the longest term investigator around here?
Hi, I was just writing a note because I have to go give a lecture.
Oh, I'm sorry.
3 o'clock. Yeah, no, I've been with the Bogalusa for a long time, and I still have students currently working with data from Bogalusa. I moved now, I started out with nutrition and looking at nutritional effects of all the participants. And now we're looking at built environment and how the built environment affects people's, proclivity for doing physical activity and relationships with obesity, and then therefore relationships with chronic disease. But I really do have to go. I'm happy to talk more about this if anybody wants to reach out. But anyway, it was nice to see everybody. So
thank you, Dr. Gustat.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
I just received a message that we can go until 3:10. So we've got 10 more minutes.
Okay, great. All right. So the Bogalusa Heart Study is a long-term study that's been going on here. We also have the chronic renal insufficiency cohort study, which is a long-term study of chronic kidney disease patients, and many other little trials that are going on within the Translational Science Institute. We have many research centers. Dr. Lydia Bizzano heads the Tulane Center for Lifespan Epidemiology Research. Dr. Prescott Deininger leads the Tulane Cancer Center. Dr. Lu Chi leads the Tulane University Obesity Research Center. Dr. Bukens and Harville, who are both on today's call, lead the Center for Emerging Reproductive and Perinatal Epidemiology. We do a lot of work with the communities too, with the New Orleans community. You can see Dr. Gustat right there from several years ago. She works a lot with the built environment and looking at cardiometabolic health. And so this is just some field work that was going on and some of the student workers that she had working with her on this research project. There's a lot of international research that goes on in our department. Here you can see a study of hypertension and cardiovascular disease control in Argentina, China, Colombia, Jamaica, and Guatemala. So there's a lot of international research. This research, I think.
And Dr. Buchan, you've got some things going on too. What countries are you involved in?
He may have, did he leave the call?
Did he have to leave the call?
He might have had to go.
Yeah, I can probably answer that. I mean, he's got studies in Honduras and Argentina and Mexico, I think, right now.
In Congo? Is there something going on in Congo?
And Dr. Shang has a study in DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo.
So we're working all over the world, internationally. You can see our worldwide research here. We're pretty much on every continent except, I guess, not Antarctica, so we're not doing research there right now. So where are our graduates? A sample of over 1,000 Tulane Epi profiles you can find on LinkedIn. Here you can just see a selection of examples. We have students basically doing everything everywhere. We have public health analysts. We have people who are in PhD programs, epidemiologists for federal agencies, for smaller companies. There's just a variety of opportunities and a variety of positions that people take after they graduate from our program. Okay, so I probably went way over with time. I apologize. Therese, say something.
Yeah,
I see you waving.
yeah, I just want to say something. I'm happy to share this PowerPoint with anyone. If you email me, I'll send it to you. That way you can see these names. But this is just a sampling. So if you want to get on LinkedIn, which you should already be on LinkedIn because it's a wonderful networking site and we use it a lot. Just search Tulane Epidemiology in quotes, and even before you're a paying member, you'll see a lot of profiles pop up, and check it out. See, you can search in particular cities, particular institutions. You'll see there's a huge variety of occupations that our graduates are employed in. And they're very exciting, a lot of really exciting things out there. We have an MD, MPH program as well. So we have those graduates out there doing some really interesting things. We also have a BS, PH, MPH combined degree program. So our undergraduates start taking graduate courses while they're still undergraduates. So anything else? Anybody else want to add? I do want to say we did have 2 other people join us later after introduction, Sam Neely and Jose Cruz. Do either, and then I think there was one other person too. Oh, Parker Acevedo. Do either any of you want to say anything? Introduce yourselves while we got a couple minutes left.
I think I introduced myself. Sorry, I turned on my camera briefly.
Hi. I don't know if anybody can hear me. I have some trouble with my mic sometimes. I'm currently still at my lab, but I'm just happy to be here. Thanks.
Okay, Sam, you did introduce yourself.
Yes,
right?
she did.
Did we hear from Parker and from Jose? Okay, well, my email, if you want to take it down, if you want to get in touch about anything, I can route it to the proper individual for you, is tcarter1@tulane.edu, TCARTER, the number 1, @tulane.edu.
We have fun. So here you can see our annual department picnic. Pre-COVID, we'd be wearing masks, I assume, if we were doing and sitting further apart from each other, much further. But we do like to have gatherings in non-pandemic days. We always have a picnic, a little holiday party at the end of the fall semester typically as well. And so you can always visit our website too if you want more information. So we have a few minutes. If you have any more questions, we're happy to answer them. If not, if you think of anything later, please feel free to email us.
There was a question in the chat, I think, that just popped up. I can't read it.
Yeah, so there's a question about the PhD admissions. Is there an interview? Normally, the potential mentor would contact you for an interview. occasionally we're able to bring people to campus if they haven't already visited. I'm not exactly sure what's happening with that with COVID and everything in the world, but that has been an option. And then we have, when do you hear about admissions? That varies a bit, somewhere between February and April for PhD. The national deadline is April 15th, right? And then the master's, it's rolling, right? Yeah.
Right, master's is rolling. PhD, we will make first offers probably beginning in February. And then don't give up hope if you don't hear something in February, because that just means there's a period of time up until April 15th. We have a grad school agreement with the other graduate schools where all the applicants can make their decisions and notify us. So you may get an offer later in the season, like even as late as April 15th or after that. So don't give up hope, but stay in communication with us because I can let you know what's going on.
Yeah. There's another question. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, it was really nice talking to everyone, meeting you guys today. Hopefully we'll be hearing from you. Please feel free to email us if you have questions. You have our home website. All of the faculty profiles are there. Our email addresses are there. Everyone's happy to answer questions and get back to you. You know, it's our job, and the students are the fun part. We like to meet you and work with you and do research.
Thank you, everyone. It was great to meet you. Hopefully we'll see you in the future in person.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. See if I can